Sir Richard Dearlove, former head of the British Secret Intelligence Service MI6, in the role informally known as C. Thank you for coming on the programme, Sir Richard. Is Putin a madman?
No, he's not mad, but he's behaving in an extreme fashion.
Does that mean that the threat to war with the West is a bluff?
It doesn't mean it's a bluff, because Russia already thinks it's at war with the West. And we have seen evidence of that. Take the recent statement jointly by the head of CIA and the head of my former service, C, in which, they warned about Russian aggression. I mean, Russia has other means of, as it were, fighting the West. And I think the risk is that they will escalate grey warfare. What does that mean? Well, it means more cyber attacks, maybe cutting undersea cables. It means acts of sabotage. It means perhaps engineered breakdowns in our critical national infrastructure. There are many things the Russians might try to do, and they have the capability and the skill to do that. And that, I think, is the problem. Will they escalate this into a general conflict with NATO? I agree with what Michael Fallon has said. Look, Russia hasn't been able to cope with Ukraine in terms of its military assault on Ukraine. Things have gone badly. Is he really going to start a war with NATO? No, I don't think so. But grey conflict, yes, and underhand activity, yes. The GRU, that's the Russian Military Intelligence Service, are trained specifically to do these sorts of acts.
So by war, the traditional definition of bombs and bullets, what you're suggesting, Richard, perhaps, is that we might see a form of conflict that is cyber-based, that attacks critical national infrastructure. Do you think we will see that on continental Europe, in EU countries, as a result of this, potentially?
Well, we're seeing it already. There's evidence of sabotage attacks in Germany. There are similar incidents in France. There was supposedly a plot to assassinate the head of one of the biggest armaments companies in Germany, which was detected by German security service, the BFV. It's already happening. I think people have got to wake up to this, and it's probably going to get worse, because this is seen in Russia as an escalation of the conflict. But in fact, all we're doing is responding to Russian escalation, and the attacks on Ukraine by glide bombs being a case in point.
And what might that mean for Britain and for my listeners, if those kinds of tactics are being used?
Well, it may mean some quite serious inconvenience and problems in their daily lives. If, let's say, we have a problem with critical national infrastructure, let's say international cable under the sea is cut, it might mean a breakdown in international communications. It might mean a fire on an industrial estate where there's a factory which is doing something in conjunction with armaments production. I mean, there are many things that could happen. I mean, I don't want to be alarmist. But,
no, being realist, I think, is your assessment.
Yeah, I'm being realist. And, why did the head of MI6 and the head of CIA get up at this Financial Times recent conference and give what was, frankly, an unprecedented general warning to the nation? And I think it was a very good idea. It makes people wake up and understand what the problem is.
Just before I let you go, I noticed that J.D. Vance, who is Trump's running mate to become potential vice president, gave a bit more flesh on the bones of what Trump's suggestion of the end of the war in Ukraine would look like. J.D. Vance talked about the creation of a demilitarized zone on the border between Ukraine and Russia, where there has been continuous fighting for over a decade or so now. Do you think that could form part of the solution here, a demilitarized zone on the border of Ukraine and Russia?
Well, look, when both sides are ready for peace talks, maybe something like that would happen. Most conflicts of this nature don't end with a clear military victory. They end with some sort of truce, some sort of negotiation. And for example, we have one Cold War truce line still between North and South Korea. It's called the Demilitarized Zone. Maybe that might be sort of replicated in Ukraine, but the Ukrainians themselves have got to be ready for this, and it's quite clear at the moment that they aren't. I'm not sure that the Russians are either. When they are ready, then maybe there will be some sort of conflict, frozen conflict, let's call it, a line of demarcation between the two sides. It won't necessarily be the end to the war. It might be an end to the fighting for a period of time. But I think what's really important for the West in this is that Russia does not come out of this conflict being able to claim victory.
Really good to talk to you. Thanks very much indeed for coming on the programme. Sir Richard Dearlove, former head of the British Secret Intelligence Service, MI6.